Welcome to another web development tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to create a form in HTML like this one. And as we haven't moved on to CSS yet, I'm not going to be showing you how to style it, or we haven't moved on to JavaScript or PHP or anything like that, so we're not going to learn how to actually make the form do anything yet, but we're just going to learn how to generate the form in HTML. So this is what we're aiming for. I'm going to start with my HTML document like this, and the first thing I need to do is lay out some form tags. So a form is defined with form tags like this, and if we were actually giving the form an action, so a script to run when we press submit on the form, we would give it some attributes in here, but we don't actually need to do that for what we're doing today. So first of all, we need to add this part of the form. So we need to first of all add and enter a username. Before I do that though, I'm going to add a title for our form. So before the form tags, I'm going to do a h1 heading, sign up. That's just going to produce a heading for our form, and then what I'm going to do is put in the first text box for the user to enter their name. Making a sign up form here, so we want somewhere for them to enter a username. So enter a username, and then we need to define a input. So we say input type, and this is of type text. It's a text input, and going to give it a name, and we're going to call it username. And the name of a input is used to refer to it in scripts that you might run after the form is submitted. Okay, so then we need to add in our password. So enter a password, and that's going to be exactly the same. So input type, except for the fact that instead of text, it's going to be a special type called password here. And that will make sure that the text that the user enters into that field appears as a dot instead of text, so people can't see the password that they're typing in. So just give it the name password. And let's just see what that looks like in a browser. So at the moment, that's what our form looks like in a browser. You can see that these two have appeared on the same line, and in the form that we're aiming for, we want them on. We want the password to be on the next line. So what I'm going to do then, you should remember this from one of my previous tutorials. I'm going to add in a line break. I'm also going to add in another line break here for our next bit of the form. I then need to add in a paragraph, because what we want is a paragraph saying what is your programming skill level. This is going to be some sort of programming website. And then I'm going to add in 3 radio buttons. So I'm going to say beginner, intermediate, and expert. I'm going to add in line breaks after those as well. So let's just have a look at what that looks like in our browser. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. We need to add in our radio buttons that we've got here for our beginner, intermediate, and expert, so that's what we'll do next. So for beginner, we type input, and then type radio, and that's the type radio button. That will say that we want an input of type radio button, and then we're going to give it a name, and let's just call it skill beginner. Okay, so for my next radio button, I'm just going to do exactly the same, but change the name to skill intermediate. And then for my expert radio button, I'm just going to do the same thing again and change the name to expert. Okay, so let's take another look at what it looks like in our browser. We've refreshed that, we've got our 3 radio buttons. So now we need to add in another paragraph with, if you've had programming experience, what is your favourite language? And we've got some checkboxes here. Let's move down then to define another paragraph. And I'll put in my paragraph text here. So we've got our paragraph text here. If you have programming experience, what is your favourite language? I'm going to add in a checkbox now for my first language, so I'm going to type Python, and then another input tag. So input, and we're going to say type, and the type we need here, because we've got a checkbox, is just called checkbox. And then type name, and we're just going to give it the name Python checkbox. Then we're going to do exactly the same for the next ones, just for our other languages. So we're going to type Java and C, and then copy and paste this input whilst just changing the name each time. So here say Java, and here say C. I'm also going to add in some line breaks here. And I'm also going to have another option for somebody who has not programmed in any of those languages, but does have experience in another language. So I'm going to say other, and in brackets, please state, and then we're going to just have a text input like the one up here. And then give it the name of a language. And we'll add in a line break there. So let's have a look at what this looks like in our browser with our new paragraph, another new 3 checkboxes, and a new text box down here. Okay, so that looks like what we wanted. That's what we got here. Except we haven't yet put in these buttons down here. We haven't added a submit button and a form reset button. Below my text input for other language, I'm going to define an input on its own here. And say input of type submit. And just say value equals submit, and that's the text that will appear on the button, and give it the name submit. Close that off there. Then I'm going to define one for my reset button. Going to have type reset, value reset, and name reset. Okay, so if we save that and have a look at what that looks like in our browser, we've got those buttons appeared there. I'll just show you one interesting thing about these buttons. If I type some text into here, so I'll type my username computing tutor, type in a random password, say experts, Python, Java, I can say that I can click on this button reset here, and you'll notice that all of those inputs are gone, and that's an inbuilt thing in HTML forms where you can define a reset button as type reset, and it will it has that functionality built in that it will just clear everything from your form. And a similar thing will happen with this submit button, except that involves us actually having a action to do when we submit the form, and that will only be possible when we move on to things like JavaScript. Okay, so that's the end of this tutorial video. Hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching.